Korea, a continent where the gods of inspiration run experiments. The gods are currently experimenting to see what people do when weather doesn't change. Weather stays the same in all areas of this continent. There's rain in Vilinity and Lower Lycanic, snow in Upper Lycanic and Northern Aviation, clear weather in Utopia and Lupanity, and wind in Solith and Avenation. There are 6 gods of inspiration: Solid, the god of creativity; Inspibellio, the god of rage; Paxibellio, the god of peace; Edulog, the god of logic; Impellium, the god of impulsivity; and Consonium, the god of evaluation. According to mythology, the gods of inspiration blessed certain creatures with humanoid forms and intelligence. The blessed creatures are now worshipped as gods in their respective regions. Solid blessed a cricket and called him Solith. The twin gods, Paxibellio and Inspibellio, blessed 2 wolves, one a red wolf called Paxim, the other a grey wolf called Bellum. Edulog believed cats to be intelligent beings and blessed a calico named Philotia. Consonium blessed a hawk and called it Volatio. However, Impellium rebelled against the idea of blessing a non-human animal and blessed the humans, giving them better senses and a strong connection to magic, creating the elves. Each of the blessed animals is represented by a different region and species of humanoid. Solith is represented by a nomadic kingdom of the desert, sharing the same name and the species called the Elytron. Bellum is represented by the brutal kingdom Lycanic and the species of grey lycanthropes. Paxim is represented by Lupanity, a peaceful nation in the valley, and the species of red lycanthropes that live there. Philotia is represented by the vain nation of Vilinity and the philanthropes that reside there. Volatio is represented by the competitive kingdom of Aviation and the avians that live there. And as stated earlier, the elves were blessed by Impellium and live in Utopia. The nations as a whole worship the gods of inspiration, though for the most part, the only blessed creatures they worship are the ones of their own nation. Each kingdom also uses magic. Magic in this world seems to be a combination of thoughts and intent as well as physical elements. Magical elements exist in states of matter. Each specific element is either able to carry magic, only good at specific types of magic, or only good at specific types of magic. Some physical elements are also magical elements, such as gold, silver, iron, and carbon. Gold is easily enchanted with any sort of magic, silver is good at containing blessings, iron is easily cursed, and carbon simply transports spells. There are 2 liquid elements of magic. Water, despite being a compound of physical elements, is a pure element of magic, used for healing spells and blessings. And multium, it's a element found in underground pools near a crystal called magicanium, and it seems to be able to aid in any magic, though usually it's mixed with water to create a heat repellent, which seems to make the sun's warmth less intense, even in the warmer areas. In terms of gas elements of magic, sorcerers of Korea know something is in the air to aid magic, but as of current time, they have not been able to identify a direct source. Magicanium, as mentioned earlier, is a crystal magical element. It seems for the most part to be a shinier, reinforced glass that helps harness magic in the air and often is attached to staffs and wands to make intended spells seem to appear out of nowhere. The people of Korea also believe pine has magical uses, though it's more superstition than reality, as it's not been studied much. They believe needles are used to ward away nightmares and that pine cones distract spirits. The people of Aviation often hang pine cones above their doorways. Okay, that was a bit of a hot start. Let's take this back a notch. That could have been a lot to process, who knows. Anyways, hey everybody, I'm Vix, and if you couldn't tell, I'm now back out of the gate with another Creatures of Study video. This one might be a bit longer than the last one, mostly because I've been writing so much lore I forgot to make this video. Anyways, so today I'm going to go over pretty much everything. There might be a couple things I miss just because I don't know how to write them into the script, but I'm going over pretty much everything. Um, that kind of barely scratched the surface. That was only 7 out of 23 pages I'm going over. So, and that's not really counting anything I just have in my head. Um, so, anyways, from here on out, I'm going to be less narrator telling a story and more naturally me sharing info. So, if anything doesn't make sense, it's just not going to. Before we get back in lore, I want to say I decided to make this be a comic. At the moment, I'm thinking more of a web comic rather than anything. And then, though I have not finished this lore enough to write that yet. But then the main thing for this is obviously going to be the trading cards because that's what this was made for. I made entire lore just to make these trading cards. I'm going to do it. So the story really probably won't matter much, but yeah, I just want to go through the world building and stuff here. Um, I'll probably we'll start with each culture of each kingdom. I don't have much for Ava Nation yet, other than I know they are competitive. I know that they honor whoever's the fastest in the kingdom, and they consider hawk avians to be the fastest because Velatio was a hawk. But other than that, I don't really know much about their kingdom. Um, yeah, but I can go over basic info about the other ones. Solith has more information than others. Some of them will, some of them won't, mostly Solith. Anyways, let's get into this, shall we? Solith is a nomadic civilization, well, mostly, with a few small settlements across the desert for any who may not want to or may not be able to travel, or for those wanting to sell or trade with any non-Solithian travelers. The Solithian people reside in the desert, worshipping the blessed animal of the name Solith, which is the same name their collective uses. They are very committed to their beliefs and values of hospitality, peace, change, magic, history, and the arts, though specifically music, because they worship Solith as a god of music. The main group of people that live there are the Elytran, which are bug-like people, which are like bug people. They're bug people with antennas. Elytrans with wings are rare and are typically considered prophets of Solith and are honored like monarchs. Due to the bug-like nature of elytrans, they don't typically eat meat. They have sensitive stomachs and they usually eat bugs and desert plants such as dragon fruit and bread baked with barrel cactus. Although when eating bugs, they try and avoid eating crickets due to Solith, the deity's original nature, being a cricket. The Solithian people don't really believe in money, preferring to trade goods for goods. They do have a currency system that foreigners can use if it would make them more comfortable, though. Next is Utopia. Utopia is a heavily civilized farming nation, though its most of its focus is on its capital city, rather than the farms in other cities and towns. Utopia is the capital of entertainment and supposedly a place where anyone can do anything. Utopians worship Impelium as a god of magic, and religious leaders often also study magic. Religious leaders in this are usually referred to as sorcerers, as opposed to sorcerers in D&D. They sorcerers in this are more like clerics in D&D, I guess. But yeah, so sorcerers are the religious leaders of Korea. Utopia is home to mostly elves, though they have population of other humanoids as well. Societal power in Utopia is determined by wealth more than anything. I want to say Solith also has other people of other nations there because they will just pretty much take in anybody. They're very, like I said, hospitable. So they will basically take in anyone who wishes to travel with them or even just stay in one of their cities. Anyways, moving on to Felinity. The people of Felinity often prioritize wealth, beauty, and independence. Felinity is mostly populated by the Philanthropes, and they worship the blessed animal Philotia, who represents protection of family, beauty, and lust. Due to Philotia's previous form being a calico cat, calico Philanthropes are often fetishized within Felinity. Felinity's currency is shaped into beads and is usually worn as jewelry. They also wear their experience at their jobs as a stripe on their clothes. I will show examples. Yeah, on the screen somewhere. But it's green for anybody who is a master at their particular job, whether that's farming or like blacksmithing. They're a master, they wear green, a green stripe on their shirt, or if they're a high-ranking noble, they would also wear green. And red is for kind of middle of the road, whether that's average craftsmen, farmers, whatever, or just middle nobles, not necessarily high rank, but not low rank nobles. And then brown is for lowest of the low, whether that's low ranking nobles or just poor, poor, really bad farmers and craftsmen, usually apprentices. Next up is Lycanic and Lupinity. Lycanic is a mountain territory surrounding Lupinity. Lycanic worships Belem as a war god, and Lupinity worships Paxim as a god of peace. The two territories frequently fight over their borders. That's pretty much it for cultures. If I missed anything and I want to add it, I will put it on the screen. Yeah, that's how I'm doing this. Now on to characters. We have 4 main characters and 4, we'll call them antagonists. There's a couple characters that don't really fit into those categories, but for the sake of this video, we will say protagonists and antagonists, even though it's a little bit not. Like, Jasper's not really a main character, but he's plot important, and then Felix is also not really an antagonist, but he's also plot important, so like they'll both be brought up, and I'll talk about both of them, so it's just easier to say protagonist and antagonist. Anyways, I'm just gonna give you guys the revamped info on each character. I will say some things I forgot to write. I am reading off script, but some things I forgot to write in my script were, Ryder still makes clothes for Jasper. Jasper is still autistic. And Felix is... I wrote that, never mind. I feel like there's something else I forgot, but I can't remember. So, anyways, just keep in mind, Ryder still makes Jasper's clothes. Ryder is still interested in sewing. And Jasper is still autistic. I think that's the only thing I forgot to write in the script. Anyways, moving on, we're gonna start with Morgana, aka Morgan Pierce. Morgan is a 21-year-old calico philanthrope from Felinity. She grew up as an acrobatic performer with her father, Kenneth Pierce, a high-ranking member of the Ruler's Council. Her mother, Veronica, is vain as vain can be, and her brother Felix, who thinks he knows enough to navigate the world. Morgan ran away because she recognized Felix in the show Lunar Effect and wants to bring him out of it. Next, Orion Solon. His name is Orion now, not Orion, because I noticed Orion and Stormveil both didn't fit the lore where I put him, and I didn't want to move him. So now he is Orion Solon. Anyways, Orion is a 20-year-old winged elytron who has been put on a pedestal from a very young age. He cares deeply for his community and for anyone who may be seeking out something new. He doesn't know the effects of Lunar Effect on the environment quite yet, but he has noticed the new creatures popping up and an increase in magical energy. When he meets up with Morgan and Ryder, he agrees to help them and leads them to where Lunar Effect is currently filming. For anyone who may not have seen the previous videos where I've talked about creatures of study, or anyone who may have forgotten because it's been like a while since I made one of these, Lunar Effect is the name of the show where the creatures are being created. Lunar Effect is a sci-fi show, and the creatures they use as aliens are real creatures in this universe, and they're being created specifically for this show. But the producer slash director and the one actually making the creatures don't decide for some reason not, well, it's because they think they have morals. They decide not to kill the creatures they're using for filming, and they just release them into the wild. So like they just release them and let them go, and they're becoming like invasive species. So like that's a problem, and also they're really freaking shady. Minor spoilers, but like eventually they record and use footage of a full-blown meltdown of Jaspers in their filming and in their show, just because they can. Like, because they think it makes it more dramatic. And so like that's like really bad. Cuz you shouldn't really do that. That's a lot. Anyways, going back to this, that's the basic gist of Lunar Effect. They're super like corrupt, unethical TV show, basically. Really popular in this universe, like #1 TV show in this universe, and they're super bad. Anyways, back to talking about the characters. Next, we're going to talk about Ryder and Jasper. So, Ryder and Jasper Lycanic grew up in Lycanic as princes. Their mother, Nessith, is from Solith, and their father is the current king of Lycanic. Ryder is in current time is 20, and Jasper is currently 16. Due to the snowy mountains that Lycanic uses for its territory, the kingdom struggles to find food. Ryder, being the oldest prince, is always going out with a patrol of soldiers and hunters to find more food, and that is how Ryder encountered the creatures. He used the new invasive species. I don't know, whatever the plural of species is. He used the new invasive species as new food sources. And then Jasper got taken by Lunar Effect. Because, yeah, I haven't figured out why yet. But Jasper's been taken by Lunar Effect. Anyways, back to this. I'll go into some more detail about Felix to start off our, quote, antagonists. He lived in Philinity with Morgan and their family until he was 12, which was a year after their dad died. He ran away and he met Jessica, who's the director of Lunar Effect, and Jessica used his need for shelter, food, and water to her advantage and had him join Lunar Effect to play the main character, which at this present time is named Vixen. Yeah. That's not because I go by Vix. It's just because it felt right. Anyways. Next is Talon. She's originally a warrior from Ava Nation. She's a Blue Jay Avian. Felix is a philanthrope, like Morgan, but he is a ginger philanthrope and not a calico. Anyways, Talon is a warrior from Ava Nation. She's a Blue Jay Avian, and she was found by Emmy and Jessica in Utopia. She only joined to protect the then 12-year-old Felix. She, in current time, I imagine she's probably 25-ish? maybe 26. I haven't fully decided. I'm still kind of planning her out. I've known she's existed, but I haven't gone into depth about her. Anyways, next we'll move on to Emmy. Emmy is a 31-year-old winged elytron. She is in fact related to a lion. She ran away from Solith because she could not be handled being looked at and having all that pressure from a young age. Just supposed to know everything, supposed to do everything, supposed to make all these choices, supposed to basically lead these people when she's not even grown. She couldn't handle that, so she ran away. And now she dives into magic and science to create the creatures for lunar effect. Sometimes she'll even use her experimental potions and such when the creatures fail, and she will burn her own wings, and because they remind her too much of Solith. She's also secretly, not so secretly, pining for Jess. And that is her motivation for why she's there. Jessica is the director and producer of Lunar Effect. She plays with Emmy's feelings to keep her working and doesn't care how unethical her tactics are as long as she's making a good show. She's currently 32 and she doesn't really want the cast to leave, but that's more because she's so ambitious and she wants to make this show. Like she loves how successful this show is, and she does not want it to ever end. So she doesn't want them to leave. She is an elf, and she's married to an avian named Leo. Leo, I think his name is Rotsend, but that might change. So for now, just Leo, I guess. Next, I'll go over the list of creatures. I'm going to have, my list of creatures for now. I'm not going over all of the names. I'll put them all on screen, but I'm not going over all the names right now. One of them doesn't have a proper, English name. But each creature has 2 or 3 names, depending on who finds them first, basically. But basically there's a scientific name from Morgan, a English name from Ryder or Jasper, and a name in the Silithian language from Alliant. I'm not giving all the names. I'm not saying all the names, but I will say that English names, or basically what I have for their names, because one of them doesn't have an English name yet because I'm struggling to come up with it. And one of them just will not ever have an English name because, again, struggling to come up with it, but also because I think it makes more sense if it doesn't. So firstly, we've got Lovinx, which is cat-like. It's a cat-like creature with horns, and it blows bubbles out of its tail in self-defense. Trickabit is a carnivorous rabbit. Paraseep. If you're into Pokemon and you know the Pokemon Paris and Parasect, it's kind of like that, except it's an actual plant and not a mushroom and a sheep. Basically, this plant and the plant and the sheep are I don't ask me how, but somehow they are born at the same time, and actually it's just a plant that looks like a sheep and can move around. That's basically it. It's not really parasitic, but it is, but it's not. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but it'll be explained well eventually when I write out the descriptions for the cards. Yeah. You got Battern, which is my personal favorite. It's just a little bat, wyvern, lizard thing, and I love it. There's Stelio. Comet Lion, Fire Lion, whatever you want to call it. This is the next one's one that doesn't have a name. Uh, it's or doesn't have an English name. It only has a Latin name. But it's called Gruus marsupium, and it is a bird with a marsupial's pouch. That's basically it. It looks like a crane, and it's got a marsupial's pouch. It's a crane with a pouch. Next is Turtund, which is a dog turtle, a dog with a turtle shell. Cotisont, which is a really tiny mouse that climbs and gets all its nutrients from cacti. Mimic crab, a mimic that looks like a crab. Solith is also a creature. Emmy had a panic attack when she made Solith on accident. And then Solith escaped. So there's only one creature of Solith. There's only one Solith creature, and it travels around with a lion. Next is Wolvark, and then Sealhorse. And this one technically isn't really a creature, but I consider it a creature because it is a living being Emmy made, but it is also kind of a robot dog. But it's called Andro, and it will have a card. But that's basically all of my info. So if I remember anything, you'll see it in text on the video. Yeah, I guess I hope you enjoyed this video. Might be a while before I make another one, cause this is hard. But yeah, see you guys in the next one. Hopefully it'll be an out of context video, cause I've got some friends and we're doing like a Minecraft series SMP thing. Or we were. Well, we still are. It doesn't have a set schedule yet, but like I'm working on an out of context video for that, so hopefully that'll be the next video. Anyways, bye bye.